What dirty little secret of someone else's have you been dying to tell? I know a girl who is a stay-at-home wife. She handles the finances and does it very unfairly. She manages it in a way that I'm certain she will be leaving her husband in a few months. A close family friend knocked up an 18-year-old girl, while he was on and off again with his high school sweetheart. Now the girl stays in the college town and doesn't really go out. They are trying to keep it from getting out and spreading around our town. He comes back every weekend. He's also quite the fuck up. He hasn't graduated from college because he's into drugs, bad crowds and get-rich-quick schemes. She wants to give it up for adoption. His parents are pushing him to keep it, or at least they will adopt it. They are hoping that his older brother or sister will offer to adopt the kid, I think. Either way, everyone is trying to keep it really hush-hush. I'm not sure the high school sweetheart knows. I'm not supposed to know. I know a guy who made over $1 million in precious metal recover from old factories and managed to get away without reporting it to the IRS. You get a share of that if you report it. My co-worker let another co-worker titty bang her while her husband was away in the army, whilst another co-worker had sex with her friend in the same room. You get a share of that if you report it. A very prominent business owner once drunkenly confessed to me one night while I was working at a bar that he loved to be dressed like a lady and let his wife beg him. Well, this being a redneck town of 3,000 people, I found it best to let him forget he told me. 2 co-workers of mine are bumping uglies. Not only did I catch them coming out of an area they had no business being near, but I have also seen them together in public. They're both married, and the dude and his wife have a newborn. You're gonna feel like real shit when you find out the co-worker is teaching the other one to knit. They were only hanging out in public, going to stores to buy the supplies and spending private time at work demonstrating how to do it. He's gonna surprise his wife with the best home knit sweater ever and you're gonna feel like shit. Late to the thread, but I'll share anyways. I know this girl, let's call her Carly. Carly was a good friend of my ex, and my ex being the big mouth she has told me this story. Carly was at a party designated driving for some people, just standing around when Chode McGee walked up with his intoxicated friends and started hitting on Carly. Carly was bored, so she didn't tell Chode and the boys to fuck off just yet, but started talking to them. Their conversation somehow got to Chode asking Carly if he could lick her asshole for $45. Carly obviously said no way, that's disgusting, but alas, Chode was persistent. Chode offered more and more money until him and his friends had pooled all their money they had on them. For $220, Carly bent over, let Chode fulfill his smelly dream, and then left with her friends as if nothing had happened. Saw my son's jiu-jitsu instructor trying to find trans women on a fetish dating site while his girlfriend was back home in Brazil. That was the day I decided that this is in fact a small world. An old and perpetually single friend of mine just finally got a new girlfriend. I had a weird feeling when I met her, so I googled her. Porn. One night, my boss left to go home. I was still working and heard a phone buzz to my left. I looked over and he had left his phone. I thought the buzzing might be him using his wife's phone to try to find it or something along those lines. I picked it up and instead of it being my boss, it is an email reply to a M4 meters Craigslist ad looking for a femboy. That was 3 months ago. A couple weeks later, my boss was talking to a patient on his phone and handed the phone over to me to schedule him for an appointment. When I hit end call, a Yahoo instant message popped up asking if he was a thick comer. So I'm pretty certain at this point that my boss is trawling for dudes on the internet. Then a few weeks ago I was using his phone again, and this time the message was addressed to Sir and it said, "From your dress up doll." My boss is a prominent doctor in the community and married to a woman. As far as I know, I am the only one who knows other than him and I guess his boyfriend slash sub slash whatever. I just hope his wife knows. Friend of mine has never had a relationship, claims to never have wanted one. He got real blackout drunk a few years back and told me the loneliness has basically killed him on the inside and he's just waiting to die. He's a good person, very nice, humble and respectful. So since he's told me every time he jokes about something or the subject comes up and he says with a cocksure grin that he doesn't want one and that it will never work out, That sentence echoes in my head. He just changes the subject, carries on, and I don't think he remembers telling me that. One of my close friends claims he's been having sex at least once a week since the beginning of the year. With girls that aren't his girlfriend. He says she's too innocent for sex, and doesn't want to hurt her. So he says he sleeps with other girls to fill his needs. I honestly don't believe him 100%, but he's had a rough time lately and has taken a dark turn. Disclaimer: I don't have any feelings for my friend's girlfriend. I'm just a very empathetic person. I have my own girlfriend who I love very much. Meanwhile, this girl is head over heels for him. She talks about him all the time, defends him when the gang teases him, and has never once said anything bad about him. She is so in love with him. She would most likely have sex with him if he just asked. If she knew the truth, it would break her heart. She's one of the nicest and most optimistic people I've ever met. She wouldn't ever hurt a fly. I don't think I've ever seen her get mad or hear her swear, either. The worst part is they're both going away for school and will be long distance, and he plans to break up with her so he can keep on filling those needs of his. Every time I see that poor, naive girl praise him and say how good of a boyfriend he is, I die inside a little bit. Since the thread is a few hours old, I don't expect anyone to see this. But shit, man. I'm really hurting for the poor girl. She's too nice for this. Yes, I once walked a very drunk friend home to his dorm room in college, and just before he got into his room, he pooped himself. Like, all over himself and all onto the floor. It was crazy. He was drunk and crying, he was so mortified. But I got him to the toilet, and while he was in there I cleaned it all up. Nobody saw a goddamn thing. Got him back to his room and he fell asleep immediately. I threw his dirty clothes away in a dumpster on the way home. In the morning he didn't remember any of it, but he was pretty stumped on where his favorite shorts had gone to. I felt so stealthy. Would like to think he would do the same for me. Lol, I guess it's more my secret now. Coworker of mine served time in prison because she watched her boyfriend kill their daughter. She's since had other children and is actually a fantastic mother. I don't know exactly what led up to her daughter being murdered, but I've kept that from our other co-workers for the past 3 years. My friend doesn't know her older brother is adopted. He is tall, dark, and has green eyes while they are short, light, and brown-eyed. Her whole family pretends he just looks like some faraway aunt, but really, he's from Europe. There are no pictures of him younger than 3 while there are tons of her from birth. I think she knows but is in denial. There's a country music superstar married a woman because she lied about being pregnant, but then lost the baby, so he divorced/annulled it. For some reasons, the lying about the baby thing never got out to the media, and not sure why. A former co-worker of mine is a mid-20s lesbian currently engaged to a girl that basically brought her to this area. None of that is the secret. The secret is that she's recently realized she doesn't love her new fiancé. She's actually crushing on her fiancé's best friend but doesn't know what to do. 2 supervisors from that same department played a particularly mean prank on another supervisor. They took the phone of a girl he was crushing on, worked in a sister location, and texted him things that lead him to believe she was interested in him. By the time he figured out what happened, the girl was creeped out and he had to submit paperwork to HR. That my so-called friend was not hanging around with me on those nights she told her husband she was. Buddy of mine tried to pull that with me once. He had about as sweet a girl as anyone could ask for, pretty too. Then he met this girl, we'll call her Jamie because that's her name. Well, he decides he's going to take Jamie out to the bar and try to get a little side action going. I told him that if he tells his girlfriend he's with me, he damned well better be with me or else I'll be giving his girlfriend Jamie's number. He rediscovered his faithful side real fucking quick and, to my knowledge, never talked to Jamie again. It was one of the few times in my life that I've ever been legitimately offended. Had a job where we had to drive occasionally for work. We had to provide abstracts periodically and carry third-party liability. My coworker buddy came in one day saying he lost his license from too many speeding tickets. Not a huge deal for the company, there are other drivers. One night we are out for drinks and he tells me that the real reason he lost his license is that he is in the country illegally and his US license is now expired. Now, he was dodging some criminal shit back home and came up to Canada. Nice guy. He assured me it was for some Mickey Mouse shit back home, so I kept his secret. Still up here last I checked. Years ago one of my co-workers was working as an escort on the side. Another girl I worked with found out and hired her for a threesome with her husband.